Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel for another market update. Hope everybody had a lovely day. And with that being said, let's dive into the TA. Alright guys, so in the last video, the weekly update, we did talk about this potential dead cat bounce. That was the most probable scenario to start off the week. Started off with a dead cat bounce that then later gets sold later on in the week. I can't tell you from here if we're going to sell later on the week, but I'll tell you, we did nail that dead cat bounce portion, guys. And now we're going to go over in this video on what we're going to be paying attention to tell us that, hey, yeah, that was a dead cat bounce. It's now time to return back down to the lows. So we'll be going over that. And we got an invalidation for the upside to talk here on SPY and QQQ. All right, we're going to go over the indices, go over the Mag 7 stocks, and then I got a couple trade ideas at the end of the video just for you. We're going to try and make this one quick. We get the Palantir earnings call coming at 5. We also do have HIM's earning here after the close. So we're going to talk about those at the end of the video there. But I am personally going to be streaming the Palantir's earning call for the Discord. I'll be doing that. And if you guys are struggling in this market, if you need a game plan every day over here, SPY QQ, you don't know what tickers to focus on, you just need help in these markets, you can come trade with me. Link is down below. I'm live every day, and I am here to help. All right, but we're also going to be streaming there too for these important earnings calls. But yeah, you know, I'm just going to say it was pretty easy to see this one coming out the gate even before markets open, guys. We talked about this exact move in the weekly update there, and then once you saw how it was setting up right off of the open, it's very obvious what was going on. You can actually come over here to SPY. And we did see the pre-market high perfectly aligned with Friday's high there. And on top of that, we were consolidating bullishly right up against the 15-minute 21 EMA. You know, it's just pretty obvious we wanted to be breaking up from that. And, you know, as of right now, I'm just going to say we do have these 15-minute bearish divergences coming into tomorrow on SPY and QQQ. Yes, they can be burned, but most of the time we do end up seeing those play out. Now, as we see, we can have divergences longer than you may think. Okay, that was 2 days. We had these bullish divergences telling us that, yeah, we probably do have that fat dead cat bounce coming. And then guess what? The 4-hour RSIs across the board, everything was oversold when everybody is sitting there looking for downside. And you go into the weekend, guys, people think Black Monday is a thing. More often than not, we get Green Monday. Okay, more often than not, that is just the case. But, you know, I'm just going to tell you, we are coming up. We got the golden pocket right above here, SPY and QQ. We're going to go over the levels here on SPY actually first. So we'll go over that. Actually, we're going to start off with VIX. So there's two real invalidations here. You got the 0.786 fib on SPY and QQQ. And then you just got the daily 21 EMA over here on VIX, guys. If this thing does end up taking out 1680 tomorrow, okay, I got my little alert right there for the daily 21 EMA. If that ends up coming down, gets underneath there, takes out 1628, we're probably going to see this cloud flip back to red. At that point, guys, we are probably going to start moving down towards these lows as the indices and, you know, the broad market just kind of continues drifting up. Before we start off the video and get into levels, I just want to point out, you know, GOOG, I told you guys this was this and over there on Meta were really the only two that were standing out to me for longs over here. That's really it. The others are looking pretty uncertain. Both of them ended up popping up their asses off today. Pardon my French, but this thing is going. All right, guys, new all-time highs above 78475. Probably incoming tomorrow over here on Meta. You know, that's good for the market. GOOG is good for the market. NVDA, we talked about it in this weekend's video. You take out 183.30, guys, we're probably going straight to 190 this week. So, you know, don't be bearish on it. And this thing looks like, yeah, it wants to get back up to the highs. There is the chance we, you know, put in a range or something like that. But if I had to guess, yeah, this thing wants to get back up to the highs. Come over here, Microsoft, it's pushing back up. Amazon, it's in the crapper, guys. This was the one that we said daily RSI is probably going to get oversold. You know, until it really starts turning around, I think it's just worth just leaving it alone. It's the same thing over here with Apple. Until it breaks above 216, just leave it alone. Tesla over here, it's still doing absolutely nothing. So what I'm trying to point out is Yeah, Meta looks great. GOOG looks great. NVIDIA looks pretty solid. Microsoft doesn't look so bad. That's 4 out of 7 Mag 7 stocks that tell us they probably do want to get back up the highs, especially over here on Meta and GOOG. They certainly want to take out these highs here and, continue with this move. Google, the all-time highs, ladies and gents. It's incoming. This looks phenomenal. This is probably how that's going to go down, okay? This is a flag. So, with that being said, and with what VIX is doing right now and how we just closed out on the indices, I just want to open everyone's mind up to the possibility of this not being just a dead cat bounce, and we do just head up to, back to all-time highs. So, just realize until this starts actually, doing what we just talked about on VIX, until we start seeing price underneath the 21 EMA, take out 1628, like you don't know. You really don't know, and you just have to expect it. Yeah, okay, until proven otherwise. Probable scenario is that it's a dead cat bounce, what we did last week. But now, we just have to be objective here and look at what the heck is this weekly chart doing at this point, guys. We had this big gap up, and, it still can turn into something like this. We could go a little bit higher here in the short term, and it still could be that dead cat bounce. That's why I'm just specifically really going to be watching VIX over there, or to start getting above these 0.786 fibs over here in SPY and QQQ. SPY, that's up at 635.50. So until you get above there, like, you don't really know. The thesis hasn't changed. And if we do pop above there, I have a feeling we're not just going to go straight up like that. It could, just be like one of these 1 week pullbacks like that, and we just start. It's a slow climb if that happens. We, don't expect a lot of volatility. VIX is going to get crushed. We're coming back down to the lows. But real talk, it's still a possibility to see this and not have this be a dead cat bounce. QQQ and SPY, they kind of just kept pushing past, my targets for the day for this real dead cat bounce here. Above pre-market highs, above Friday's high over here at 62634. We were just going to be looking for 62834. That was in the game plan. That's the level that we thought was probably going to trade pretty quick. And then potentially 63077, I said. I didn't think we'd make it up to these 0.618 fibs, but, as we could see, like, that's, like, buyers are here. Buyers are clearly here. The daily cloud did not flip bearish. Okay, they saved it, and I'm just definitely saying, just be open to the possibility that this is not a dead cat bounce. Now, with that being said, guys, I have trades for you at the end of this video that are probably going to move well regardless of what the market does. You don't have to concern yourself with that, okay? It's an uncertain time. It's time to use less size if you are taking on trades. That's really, that's what you want to be doing in these times where you are uncertain on where the broad market is going to be moving next. That is when you should be sizing down. That is when you wait and, until things are really looking clear, and then you could size up on that next big trade that's looking extremely obvious to you. But I'm telling you right now, there's not many things that are looking extremely obvious except for Google back to highs. As far as the big boys go, Google back to highs. NVIDIA doesn't look bad if it takes out the high, and the Meta over here clears that wants to move up to the highs. We talked about that. If we get a dip to start off the week, it was probably going to be bought. We didn't get the dip to start off the week. We ended up getting a gap up, and we took out Friday's high, and it has a date with all-time highs now. It's going to 800 freaking bucks. All right, so yeah, just be open to anything right now, but at least we got the bounce part out of the way. Now we just have to wait and see. So let's go over some levels, guys. We can still come up into the golden pocket here, is even as high as 634, and this still is just a dead cat bounce. You're going to look for sellers in the golden pocket, 632 up to 635.50. If you get above 635.50, that's when, hey, all right, as far as shorts go, I don't think they're worth being in at that point. Maybe you try your shot here. Take your paper cut loss, okay? If you're in the 815 expiration, I imagine if you are entering over here, you sell for over here, you are going to be down, 30 to 40% with all likelihood. But that is the reality of what we have right now in the market, okay? You can go further out with puts and use more size, but I'm telling you, start creeping up above 635.50, it probably is just going to make its way back up to the highs. Whether that happens this week or next week, I have no idea. But this thing is getting pretty aggressive here. We had a 1.5% day here on SPY and almost a 2% day on QQQ. All right, like, buyers are very, very clearly here, and it's, we did have low volume compared to Friday, so but yeah, be open to either scenario. All right, so on the upside, let's go over the levels we're paying attention to. We got 632, which is the 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level. Above there, 634. key spot, and then 635.50. Get above 635.50, we're talking 639.85, and you're probably going 642 to 645 pretty much immediately within 1 to 2 sessions from breaking that level. On the downside, we have 630.77, which was the Thursday's low, the gap that was left open. We filled it today. Underneath there, 628.34, 626.34, and then if you give that out, guys, if you see price get back under here, probably going to return back down to these lows, and that's a 7 to 8 point move that you can catch there. Okay, because we're not probably just going to see that 7 to 8 point move, probably also going to see something like that, and we do return back down to 613.23, previous all-time high. That is SPY. Let's go over QQ levels. On the upside, all right, SPY is showing more strength than QQ right now. On the upside, we have 566.53 above there. You're just watching 570, guys. You get above 570, probably going back up to all-time highs, 574.63. So get above 570, we're talking 572.11, 574.63, and then probably 580 in the short term. On the downside, Thursday's low right over there, last Thursday's low, that was the gap we filled today, 563.87, 562.31, 560.80, and 559.02. Just like SPY had that trigger level this morning, QQQ did as well. They both want to gun it right out the gates. And again, if you want to come trade with me, I'm live to catch these things every morning with you guys. I'm live up until 12 to 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because that's when we typically will begin the movement in the market there. And the market likes to chop it up and get really slow after that opening move. Typically how that goes. Sometimes we do put together a 32-hour long range there, sometimes longer, but typically we'll see that opening move there, and that's usually where the volatility is around. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. If this thing does get back down to 559.02, that's when this thing, it's returning back to, it's probably returning back down to the lows. That's where the daily 21 is. You will have reclaimed the 21 EMA just to lose it there. Yeah, it's probably going to continue falling. All right, but as of right now, clear as day, bulls are, they have the wheel right now. Okay, so I am honestly leaning towards, maybe we're wrong about this just being a dead cat bounce, but with that being said, we got the dead cat bounce part right. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I still want to remind everyone, it still can recover most of the sell and then sell off into next week. It still can happen. So just realize this could still be the case. So we can just have this massive range, and we can pull back further down into this. We have the week of 21 all the way down here. I still think it's on the table to come back down to previous all-time high, 540.81. Okay, but those are the levels over here. SPY QQ, like I was talking on VIX earlier, guys, take out the 21 EMA, which is sitting right around 1680 as of right now. It'll probably be around there tomorrow. That's your first warning sign that, hey, all right, maybe VIX is going to start fading. Maybe the indices are having more than a dead cat bounce right now. If you take out 1628, and if you guys do have this cloud indicator on there, if I see that thing flip red, at that point, I just know we are probably, that was unlikely to be the fake out move, but it would kind of be confirming that, it was probably a fake out move. We'd probably be coming back down here, and we would make our way back up the highs in SPY and QQ, as well as, everything else. The broad market. Okay, so there's VIX. I'll just come over IWM. It looks pretty nasty. Okay, like above and in a bullish manner, above 226.6. This, this could start moving back up. This does not look all that bad. You came right into the week of 21 EMA. You held it so far. You have a pretty aggressive bounce. So until you come down and take out the lows on that weekly chart, this looks bullish. You come over to DIA. Does that look bearish to you? No, it's same as IWM. You're pushing right up against the daily 21 EMA. It looks like you might just start marching right back up. And again, we're now going to cover the big boys. The video over here, guys, on the upside, we had 179.38, and above there, you're probably coming right back up 183.30. I think 183.30 probably is tested tomorrow. And then above there, 185, and then 190. I do think 190 is probably going to be coming this week. On the downside, 179.38, 176.54, 174.25. If you do end up taking out this level right here, 176.54, that's how you know, hey, all right, maybe you're not getting up to the highs just right yet. You could end up coming back down to these lows. If you take out 176.54, and that's NVIDIA. Coming over to Meta, guys, it looks gnarly here on the 4-hour chart. It wants to push back up. Oh, you think it's just the 4-hour? No, daily looks pretty sick. Weekly looks pretty sick. This thing has a date with 784.75, and it's probably going 800 plus this week. That's the analysis on Meta. GOOG over here, guys, consolidating this bullish manner over here, pull back to the 21 EMA. Again, maybe this isn't just going to be a dead cat bounce. It did have this this drawn out something like this in the weekly update. That's how I'm pretty sure it went. And you know, this is making me second guess that this is a dead cat bounce. So if this thing does get above 198.16, guys, we're talking 202.88 and then 208.70. I think it's incoming. Okay, that is Google. Went over NVDA. We'll come over to Microsoft, guys. I'm not really going to provide analysis for the stock. There's not really any particular levels that I'm going to say is going to lead to, you know, a larger move. I'm just going to say on the 4-hour time frame, 540.32 above there, you don't have anything until you come up to 555.45. You just can't see that level here on the daily chart. But yeah, I wouldn't be touching it, honestly. It can go back up the highs for all we know. It can consolidate in a range for all we know. It's probably not going to break down right away. That I kind of do know. But yeah, you know, this is what I was saying in the weekly update. There's really no clear buys you can have on this chart here. You know, you don't really want to be buying it with what it was doing, and you don't really want to be selling it when you have to get through all this demand sitting down here anyway. So the big sell is not going to happen right now. So there's that. Amazon got the dead cat bounce today and came back down underneath Friday's low, 212.80. Next stop, 211.05. And then underneath there, guys, we're talking 207.31. I think this thing can start coming down towards $200. I'd say 200 to 205. It looks like it can be hit by the time that daily RSI gets oversold. You're right now on the weekly 21. In the weekly update, I pointed to this one right here and this one right here. And what we just got last week looked very similar to what we had right there. We had right there where you got the dead cat bounce start the week, and then boom, you took out the low and you went lower that week. But then 2 weeks later, that's when you really, you know, the floor really just gave out. So that's, you know, still the opinion over here. I'd say I have the bearish bias over here on Amazon. Maybe don't short it, you know, but at the same time, it probably is going to be falling here in the short term. So do whatever you want, you know. Apple, don't touch until it gets back above 216.23. It faded the move up today with all the market strength. Not something to be touching long as of right now. It's something that is showing the weakness today. So that is Apple. Downside break 201.50, guys. It just might start making its way down to right there, 199.26 and then 195.07. Tesla, guys, is starting to see some life here. You can get above 315. That is where, you know, I'm seeing this thing might start moving, but really you just have to break above this trend line here. We want to see a solid weekly close at this point. It's getting really tight here. You don't have earnings, like, you know, earnings the other way. So I have to assume this thing is probably going to be making a big move, I think, to the upside. But regardless, it's going to probably happen like next 1 to 2 weeks if I had to take a guess. Certainly, I'll be watching it, and I'm going to be playing. I don't really want to short Tesla. I'm going to be completely honest. I'll be playing upside if it happens. I'm not going to be playing downside. I'm just going to be open and honest about that one right here. You know, I think overall this is a bullish monthly setup we have going on here, and we can clear as day see the compression going on here on the weekly time frame. It's getting tight. It's ready to break one direction or the other. If we happen to get above this high over here, this thing's going to start ripping faces and squeeze the shorts. That's just how that's going to go. I'm actually just going to take off these levels right here. You know, this is what you're watching, guys. You're watching key levels right here. This is going to determine your next move, in my personal opinion. Break above 338 or break underneath 288.77. That determines the next move. That's what I'm seeing. That's Tesla. Okay, so those are your Mag 7 stocks. I got some trade ideas here that I don't think are going to be, you know, caring too much about the market with what they're doing today. APLD, guys, I know, long time no see. You guys want to, you know, keep asking me about APLD over here, and I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and tell you, hey, it's not going to move until it starts showing signs of life again. It actually starts moving, makes a new, you know, higher high over here on the daily and the weekly time frame, you know. But guess what? Now it's doing it, and I will put it back on you guys' radar. Okay, so you know, I personally took on this one today over here. And I, you know, I like the 919 calls. I also think weeklies are about to pay over here. So I did end up, you know, I got a little in there as well. But I do think this thing is going to be taking a ride above 1406 tomorrow. Maybe it happens with a gap up. Regardless, this thing is queuing up for a big move. Okay, above 1406, we have nothing till 1542, and above there, you have a weekly breakout here. You're probably at least going to go a couple points above that spot, probably another 2 to 3 points above there. And if that happens, we're talking 17 to 18 bucks is possible. Okay, so just realize that might be taking place. This is something you could focus on. It's moving right here, right now. And I think we might start having ourselves a big week starting tomorrow, okay? So that's APLD. Hood, guys. Hood is having itself quite the day here, and it makes me think this thing wants to start pushing back up to highs this week. 113.44. Weekly chart really freaking turned around here, and if we can take out last week's high, I think it's kind of telling us that, yeah, it does want to go to the next area of interest, 113.44. Typically, guys, if we're gonna have this pullback here, have this sell and then bounce, we're not going to take out the previous week's high. All right, that's kind of telling us this was the pullback before a rip. It's not telling you this is a dead cat bounce. It's like SPY over here. All right, you take out the high, we can pretty much see for a fact that's not a dead cat bounce. The thing wants to move and groove. So Hood over here, I think it wants to start moving and grooving and put in a very solid daily candlestick after finding buyers on Friday there. So yeah, above 109.06. Here's the idea: above 109.06, we're talking 113.44. But really above 104. This is at least what I gave the Discord earlier. This is the plan. Above 104.59, it's probably on its way up to 109.06. But that's kind of 109.06. That is the level in my head that it's really confirming that, yeah, it wants to make a move. And I imagine above 113.44, it can push 115 to 120 this week. So I'd say 115, 118, 120, use those as targets on the upside there on a Hood. VST, guys, it continued showing signs of life today, continued showing those buyers. All right, doesn't really care what the market's going to be doing. Maybe it does gap up and down with the market, but intraday, the thing wants to move on its own. I think this weekly candle is going to expand this week. We do have earnings, so it could potentially make a large portion of the move with that. All right, as far as in the short term, guys, Okla, I think tomorrow it could have quite a day over here. All right, I like the weekly ADC over here, so that would be 88 ADC. They're going for about $200 there when I was looking at them earlier. All right, and after the close here, they are still right around $200. So I do think this thing above 80.42, it just might push 85 to $90 real quick over here. This specifically reminds me of these 2 days right here, okay, where you wanted to push up to the high there, but you didn't take it out. And then you had this other time right over here where, again, you tried pushing back up. You had the big move like we did today, but you did not take out the high. You did not take out the high. And then both these days were followed with these big moves. All right, these big bodied moves. And from that close, that's an 11% move. From that close, that is a 15% move just about. So I do think it's possible that we might have ourselves a big boy move over here on Oklo and get ourselves up to $85 as soon as tomorrow. Put it on the radar, okay? But above 77.17, this thing looks ready to rumble. Above 80.42, the move is happening, and it's probably going to 85 that day. There you go. There's Oklo, okay? And again, later on in the week, talked about on the Twitter, guys. If you're not already on the Twitter, all right, go. That link is also down below. Go check that out. I promise if you find value in these videos, you're going to find a ton of value over there on the Twitter. I got you, okay? SMR for Friday, guys. We're looking for that 15% intraday move on Friday after earnings. It's something that's happened 6 out of 6 times. It's something I think will continue happening this time. Either way, odds are definitely in our favor for that move to be happening. From the opening price, at least a 15% move on Friday. So that's SMR. But Oklo is the one in the theme right now that's really showing signs of life and looking like it wants to bust a move. Reddit, guys, we talked about this in the weekly update. It's probably going to continue pushing in the short term here. Just realize it is going to pull back at some point, just like it did over here. And we're probably going to have this crap going on. We're going to keep building out some bullish consolidation where we then push up pretty quick, pretty aggressively. So we're going to have probably multiple 100-200% gainers over here over the coming weeks. I'm guessing that it's probably going to have a similar pattern to what we had over here, considering the nature of the stock over here. So when we start seeing that pullback, it's probably going to last 2-3 sessions. Okay, maybe it lasts the whole week, like some of these do last the whole week, it looks like. But I do think that first pullback is probably the one before we do move up to all-time highs at 230. Okay. So wherever that happens from, even if it happens 210, 215, pulls all the way back down to 200, test that 5 EMA here. That's what we're going to be watching, that daily 5 EMA. Notice how you got extended there. You pulled back to the 5 EMA. You got extended there. You pulled back to the 5 EMA. You got extended there way overboard. You pull back to the 5 EMA, okay? So that's what we're going to be paying attention to. Put it on your radar. Walmart, the walls of Mart, baby. Wally boy over here. It's working with us. It's rocking. It's rolling. It's grooving. It's moving. And the thing looks like it's about a snap city to the upside over here, okay? Above 99.5, guys, this bad boy is ready to move. You guys can see over here on the weekly time frame, you know, ideally, we just want to see the weekly close above 99.5 at this point, and we know we have a change of character over here on the weekly time frame. That's what we want to see by Friday. But I will tell you, I do think it's probably going to be doing some cool things, considering it held the close. You got the daily close above 99.5 here, and, you know, typically when we do hold this pullback here, we will you know, see how you faded it. This one held it. All right, we're still above that 21 EMA. And yeah, a lot of the time when you hold it, just like that day and that, look, that day led to further prices, that day led to further prices. You know, so I'm just pointing out a little smaller time frame theme there that tends to go on. But higher time frame wise, this thing is getting ready to rumble. I think we're probably going to be up at all-time highs. Maybe by earnings, we're going to be pushing up there. But I do think earnings is probably, you're going to push into earnings and then just, you know, complete that move with earnings. That is what I would assume is going to be the case, just like you had going on over here. Okay, you're moving up into earnings, but as we could see, then you started going vertical. So I do think that's going to be the case. And in post earnings, we get 105, 110. Keep it on your radar. Earnings are in just about 2.5 weeks at this point. HIMS, guys, earnings. All right, earnings. It looks like they beat earnings. I'll check it out after this video. We're going to continue here going pretty quick because we got PLTR earnings at 5. We got the call. But I will tell you right now, HIMS, guys, if this thing decides to, you know, not open down here, we don't want to see it open down here. If it decides to open somewhere around over here, around $60, I'm going to say, and then you see it push up and you see it take out this high, okay, get above 65. It just might be participating in a squeeze right then and there. And you might be about to catch that thing above 66, all the way back up to 73, and then maybe we go 80 plus. The weekly chart over here is what's really standing out. You have this bullish consolidation going on here. I know you are pulling back in the after hours here, but I'm talking about tomorrow's open. If we see these conditions, I'm probably going to get involved there. Regardless, one of the key earnings plays that we were at least going to be paying attention to. But APP and SMR are really, those are the ones I'm looking forward to over here this week. All right, but that is HIMS, guys. We're potential squeeze play tomorrow. Potential. We don't know what's going to happen. Potential. People, there was someone on Twitter who wanted to short, or no, it wasn't on Twitter. It was here. It was someone in the YouTube comments saying that easy short and then buy the longs once it's put its bottom in. It is way easier said than done. I don't know why people try like looking at things as so black and white. It's not like that. You take it and see how it goes. The easy, you know, move to me was if you had an earnings gap down, that's probably going to be bought within a few sessions, considering that is what's been happening with all of these, you know, when it's trending like this, that's what happens with these aggressive pullbacks, 10 to 15% pullbacks. They get bought pretty quick. That was the obvious play for me. And then also I told you guys, you know, it looked like on Monday, we're probably going to get above 160.39, guys. We did get the daily close above 160.39, and now it's pushing in the after hours. Do I think it's going to get this crazy move to justify the premiums? No, I think people are going to have their call premiums crushed. I don't think we're going like 180 to $200. I just don't think it's going to happen. But I do think the PLTR train is going to keep trucking on here, and maybe you get a pullback around the open. But I wouldn't be surprised if this thing just kind of holds its gap up. I wouldn't. Okay, so that's PLTR. And then other than that, guys, we're just watching Rocket Lab. But that's, again, something that's we're gonna be taking advantage either on Friday if we get a big gap down off of it, or more specifically, even if you get a gap up, we're gonna be watching this thing for a pullback later on. That's just typically what happens around these earnings. So no matter what, we have a play here to catch Rocket Lab. I'm looking at 100, 200%, regardless, all right, regardless of what this thing decides to do off of earnings here. I'm just telling you, if it's a big gap down, you open yourself up to one of these squeeze days right here. We get involved with that. Okay, if you don't have the big gap down, but you start selling and then you take out this low over here, okay, you open up above it and you take out that low, you're going to leave it alone for now. Okay, and you're going to let it, really find its bottom there. And then within a few sessions, yeah, that thing, you could just look back and typically you will see a decent sized move. If you gap up, okay, if you gap up, you're not going to chase the gap up. All right, because this is what happens when it gaps up. Yes, you could have that decent move off the open. It goes another 20%. Then what happens? It might pull back. And once you see that, pull back to the 5 EMA on a big gap up after, 1 to 2 sessions later, that's when we get involved there. Regardless, there's going to be an opportunity on this Rocket Lab chart that we're going to take advantage of. I'll talk to you guys about it when it comes to fruition. Other than that, okay, I will say open started popping up again today. Tossed definitely end up popping up again today. It has earnings tomorrow after the close. This little piece of poop stock decided to push up right before earnings. Doesn't want to really give you all that much of a move after a big ass breakout over here. It's probably about to get this, probably about to get this 5 to 10 point pop off earnings. Honestly, that's what I'm thinking here over on TOS. BBAI, that thing started popping back up today. It looks like this is all just big consolidation before pushing higher. All right, other than that, AVGO, it's looking pretty decent over here as well. All right, AVGO looks just like NVDA, like it wants to push back up these highs. Maybe not as strong, but at the same time, it's not weak. By no means is that weak, guys. All right, and QBTS, not a terrible close day. You finally had a green candlestick, so we're going to be watching this one. But regardless, you have earnings this week. You got to get above $19. You get above 19, you're probably short after that. Getting above 20.56, then you start that big move. Okay. And with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I really do. All I ask is that you leave a like on these videos so we can get it out to more people. We could grow a little corner here on YouTube into, maybe a massive corner on YouTube. Maybe even with the window. It could get pretty crazy. We just got to hit those like buttons, okay? Other than that, if you want to come trade with me, that link is down below. But exciting week today. This week going on with, we got a bunch of plays around earnings. We're going to see if it's going to be dead cat bounce or not. Exciting stuff. But again, guys, if you are uncertain where the market is going to be going next, I always think it's a great idea to just size down. If you're putting on any new trades, just use less size. That is by default risk management. That is by default you just putting on less risk in the uncertain environment. That is how it should be. Now, with that being said, it's still possible this thing push up the highs. Don't sit there being all salty because, Henry told me to risk less and it pushed right up the highs. Yeah, okay. You didn't know it was going to do that until after. Let's be completely real about it. On top of that, you have a bunch of plays that we just went over that are probably going to be making their moves regardless of what the market does. Okay, you just got to wait patiently for those to actually, present those entries. All right. And, I didn't mention it before, but APP, guys, this is the earnings play that I'm personally going to be holding through earnings because I do think we have a setup to get one of these larger earning reactions. Maybe we do have a crazy 30 to 40% move here. We find our way back up the highs. I don't know. But I'll tell you, I think it's very possible over here on APP. Regardless, we're going to be looking for a minimum of a 13% move on earnings. And you can play that using commons and overnight, not like before, not after. We're talking on that earnings day. We are going to be looking for that, 13% move minimum. But we are also going to be looking for something larger. I think that is probably going to be the case. You can play with commons. I think the best option here is going to be the 919 expiration. I like the 500C, okay? And then I like the 815 450s, okay? But that is APP over here. With that being said, guys, I will catch you on the next one. Again, go follow over on the Twitter. I'm going to be posting a bunch of these charts over there on the Twitter. And yeah, I appreciate you guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Everybody have a lovely rest of their day and peace.